welcome to chat with me. Today we have a very special guest. He has an extremely crazy and amazing story. It starts tragic and then ends up this just miracle. So I want to introduce you to Ian Panter.
Hey, how are you doing, Robin? Glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here.
We should reference that our story actually happens to start 20 years ago when we first met. So let's be
Did we tell people that?
Absolutely. So, the short story is I was in college and I was doing a charity bike ride for people with disabilities called Gear Up Florida through my fraternity. And you were with a group that we were interacting with, and that's how I was able to meet you.
That's right. I was working for Best Buddies.
Best Buddies, yeah.
Yes, and you guys were volunteering, and we got to meet you. It was at like Wet and Wild or something.
It was at a water park, yes.
You were just 19 years old, and I was like an older lady in my mid-20s, I think. And yes, we got to meet, and who knew 20 years later that we would be able to come on a platform like this and share your story. So Ian, tell us a little bit about what happened to you.
All right. So the last about 5 years, I started to become very active and fit. I was running what was called Tough Mudder. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
For your audience that's not, it's basically a obstacle course race. Averages about 10 miles with different obstacles in between. It's not a competitive race. It's more of like anyone can do it. It's for fun. You can walk. And so I had done about 18 or 19 at that point, because I did really enjoy it. And
you'd have to 18 or 19 Tough Mudder races. Jeez.
At that point, that also includes a Toughest Mudder, which is an 8-hour overnight race from midnight to 8 a.m., which is why I was in Pennsylvania. I also did what's called World's Toughest Mudder. That's a 24-hour race in Las Vegas.
I'm like exhausted just thinking about it.
That's an actual race. So guys like me were just doing it for fun and to test ourselves and really push ourselves to the limit, to give you an idea. So I drove to Ohio, met up with a couple of Tough Mudder friends, and we drove to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to do Toughest Mudder, the overnight race. So that Saturday, which ironically a couple of days ago was the 3-year anniversary of that day, the 20th. I ran Saturday morning with my friends, doing just like a low key, testing out and seeing what we could see on the course. And then the last thing I remember is actually walking to the car. My friend Adam was driving. And that's the last thing I remember for about 6 weeks. After, finding out things, basically what happened was someone was going 85 or 86 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone.
Oh my goodness.
And, and T-boned us on my side.
Oh.
So I was, obviously this is all secondhand information.
Right.
But I was in a coma for about a week at Lancaster General Hospital. I was there for almost a month, and then I was med-jet back to Michigan, to where I went to, it's called RIM, Rehabilitation Institute of Michigan. Don't remember the first 2 weeks of that, and then I finally started to come out of the sedated, I don't even know, because it wasn't a coma, I was awake.
Right. Well, they do usually like a medically induced type coma so that you can heal enough to be able to be well.
At the early stages, well, it wasn't medically induced, it was a coma, but I was still heavily sedated because they weren't sure about, I had a brain bleed. So they had to drain the brain bleed. So then I went back to rehab for about a month. And 3 years later, here I am.
Okay. So you get into your buddy's car after this race, correct? Mm-hmm. And you literally don't remember anything else. When you sort of come to and wake up for the first time, what were you feeling and thinking? What was your memory like then?
So, the weird part is I don't know what the medical terms are for it. when I woke up, I didn't wake up and like, oh my God, where am I? I kind
Right.
of knew where I was at. I had a couple flashbacks of actually being jetted back to Michigan. So
Oh.
I know if the brain is such a mystery. Who knows how it works
Mhm.
exactly? Even my doctors don't know. They'll tell me, brain's a funny thing. um, so I just kind of woke up. I figured out where I was at, and then I would have inpatient speech and PT and OT and things of that. But when I could walk, I could still feel my balance was like I had
Mm.
vertigo. It was very off. I had a gait belt had to hold me with. I
Yeah.
was in a so they had me in a wheelchair, but that was only to prevent me from falling. I didn't need it physically.
Okay.
But so I was a little wonky the way I
Yeah,
walked
your
and
balance, your equilibrium was off. So how long did you have to go through speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy?
so so I guess a lot started when I was in Lancaster and I continued at rehab. I was only at rehab inpatient for a month. But I continued with all three for, I don't know the exact, probably another 5, 6 months. I
Wow.
continued with PT. I felt like my speech was getting better at that point, and same thing with OT. I'm very lucky because for me, obviously, I had what's called a severe TBI, like the highest level, I guess. What I really feel is that 95% of my side effects are physical. I don't have a lot of the cognitive side effects that you could get from an accident like that.
Mhm.
So I'm very lucky in that aspect. Pretty funny story was that when I got released from rehab, my uncle actually picked me up and was taking me back home. And we had stopped at Panera Bread. And as we were ordering, she asked, "Do you guys have a Panera card?" And he said no. He was actually from Vegas. And I said, "I do." And I just rang off my phone number like that. And he was like, "Well, I'm not worried about your memory." So, so literally, besides that 6 weeks, I have no gaps. I remember pretty much everything before that, and everything since, knock on wood.
That's amazing. And that is the beauty of the brain. You're right. It's so intricate and there's so many things that could have happened or that, did happen, didn't happen. So that's amazing. Your recovery sounds fantastic. So where are you physically now? Have you been able to get back into the Tough Mudder races?
So, physically, I'm better. I'll never be 100%. Unfortunately, with an accident like that, you never go back to the person you are. Um, so I have neuropathy throughout my body, numbness 24/7. So my hands, my lips, my foot.
Yeah.
It's not so much that um, it doesn't hurt, but I can feel it. I know
Yeah.
it's there. So if I would like to do this very fastly, I actually lose control of my right side is very limited with control. The doctor once told me the best example was it's like a computer. Your brain is telling your body what to do, but the
Mhm.
one side is reacting slower. So if I start
Okay.
running, it's like my left foot, nice and smooth, my right foot, I can lift it up, but I have no control about how to put it down. So it's like slam. And so my running days are pretty much limited. And then because of the neuropathy, I have trouble with my grip. And a big part of Tough Mudder is grip strength and being able to maneuver obstacles when you can grab on and things of that nature,
Right.
pull yourself up. So I don't have that luxury. And so, I'm also happy turning 40 next month. So my Tough Mudder days, I'm okay with it being over. I mean, I have such an amazing family from Tough Mudder and friends that I'll have for the rest of my life. Every year I go up to Canada. We have a big celebration with a group of us. Um, so, that's really my biggest physical challenge is the numbness and neuropathy. But since my cognitive is there, I feel, I can deal with the rest of it. I try to keep a very positive attitude about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of positive attitude, through all of this from the beginning up until now, how has your mental health been? Because this can be very trying.
So, I was very lucky. So it goes back to my days at Garrett, Florida, when I met you. I was a young 20-some college student. I really only cared about drinking and hanging out with the guys. But after that experience, getting to meet so many people that had challenges daily, the rest of their lives, there's no going back. It really changed me to the fact of where I couldn't go to a restaurant and get frustrated or angry with the staff if my food was made wrong or late or whatever it was. So since that day, I really started just to have a general positive attitude about things, which really helped me. And the doctors would even verify. They say, your positive attitude and your physical prowess really helped you overcome these obstacles. So to your question is that I've always had that positive attitude.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, this happened. I was a passenger in the car. I was at no fault. If I get upset and depressed, who's that going to hurt? My mom, my sister, the people that love me? Like, that just doesn't do any good.
Right.
And so it's like, I'd rather have a good attitude about it and live my life to the best that I can, dealing with what I have to deal with. One of the things I joke about is that, everything I do from the day the accident happened is a first. I'm the first person to do this with a TBI. I'm, the first time I've ever done this with a TBI and whatnot. So I just always kept that attitude. It's like everything is exciting and a first. If you do it, you're doing it for the first time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned your mom and your sister. This must have been really hard on them as well.
So my sister and her husband were actually supposed to take a cruise to Barcelona 2 days after the accident, which,
Aww.
So, I was in the hospital in Pennsylvania, and all my family, including myself, is here in Michigan. So my mother, my sister, and her husband drove to Pennsylvania, and were pretty much outside of like one weekend to go back to visit their kids. They were there for the entire month. And a huge support. And so I actually bought my house a month before the accident. And because of the balance issues, they didn't want me going up my stairs. So I actually went and stayed with my mother for about 2 or 3 months after getting out of rehab. The other thing, I couldn't drive yet at that point. So she had to drive me around and, be there for me. And again, that support system, if the Tough Mudder community is all across the country. There are events happening all across the country. I was getting well wishes from California, Arizona, you name it. I was getting love and support. And then having my family here who were making sure that I was recovering and going to, therapies and getting me there and never giving me a hard time, even though they don't let me get away with stuff now, saying that brain injury is just an excuse. They were extremely supportive. My friends here in Michigan, the Tough Mudder community, they were doing charity events to help me with the medical bills and things of that nature. So that support was huge for me, a lot. Without that, so I joined a couple of Facebook groups that are involved with TBIs, and I hear a lot of sad stories. And when I reply or make a comment, I always try to keep it positive.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, let's face it, I should be dead. There's really, not that I can think of, there's no reason for me to be alive other than to keep living my life. That's all I can think of. I'm not a super religious person, but there's a reason that I was kept on this earth. And maybe it's not to cure cancer, but it's not to be down in the dumps either and ruining everyone else's life. No, I'm going to live my life and I'm going to do it the best that I can do.
That's awesome. And you're here to inspire others. You are such an incredible young man, I'm going to say. And the Tough Mudder community sounds so wonderful. And I've heard that they're a close-knit group, but to hear the level of support that they've provided you is just amazing. And your family has been so wonderful. Ian, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. Again, I think you're just amazing and so inspiring. And I think that people can learn from you and from your experience, as traumatic as it was for you, you've come out with this positive attitude and this positive light. And I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate, I'm willing to talk to anybody about, what they're going through and try to help them because, look, we all have our own different issues, but we're alive.
Yeah.
And if you are here to complain about it, that's a great thing because that
Mhm.
means we are kept on this earth. We are keep going and we will overcome whatever obstacles continue to get in our way.
And I love that you're willing to talk to other people because not everybody has the support system that you were so fortunate to have. So that's
Absolutely,
amazing.
100%. I've talked
Awesome.
to people on Facebook, and again, I'm more than happy to reach out to anyone and show my support for them as they continue to grow.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian, so much for joining me. And thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, take care of yourselves and don't forget to take care of each other.